Welcome back to another episode of Spectator Mode. I'm Neil Strebig. With me, as always, is Donald Double D DeCray.
Yep, still
We
here.
got, we
I
got,
have not been
we've
rescued
kind
yet.
of been, oh my gosh, rescued from what? An awesome show. We got a short list though. I'm not kind of intentional. I know a couple of episodes have been 4 or 5 items, but it kind of worked out that way. We're going to talk a bit about Street Fighter 6 news, a Joker sequel with Joaquin Phoenix, a little bit of news on Diablo Immortal, some extension from last week's episode 2 on loot boxes in there naturally. And we're going to talk a little bit about The Rock's newest blockbuster and DC's latest installment, the Black Adam trailer, which dropped this week as well. So,
Yeah.
kind of just jumping right into it.
Yeah, kick us off.
This state of play, we saw the first kind of look at Street Fighter 6's new gameplay, some new footage there as far as characters, the actual fight cinematics, some new story modes as well. What's your take? What's your initial thoughts?
Looks gorgeous. I think it's kind of interesting that again they seem to be trying to I can't tell from the video itself if there actually is like an overworld that you kind of like move between fights or whatever, or if those are just cutscenes that they're showing. But from the graphics quality, they don't look like cutscenes to me. It looks like that there actually is some sort of an overworld that you move through because it doesn't seem like cinematic enough. And maybe, like I said, I could be wrong in this interpretation. Comes back to previous discussions we've had about does every game need an overworld? Does it really suit the style per se of what Street Fighter is? But the game itself looks visually amazing. The franchise I think has had its formula for a while and has just been focused on improving it. So not expecting anything groundbreaking, but I think the real question is going to be what kind of monetization options they're going to have because, that's been an issue in a lot of games. And I think in their last one too, in the fifth one, they got a little piecemeal with the content stuff and the purchase options. I'm actually going to check
into
the
end, I think, with 5. Because they're still dropping updates and stuff with 5 now. I had to get rid of it just because if I didn't keep up with the updates, it was just destroying me as far as uploads for other games I was playing. But they came out with quite a bit for free, especially with the second update, and they included all the retro game modes. But getting off topic with the new one, this basically looked like Mortal Kombat Deception to me with the story mode, and you're kind of going through and then fighting characters and like they pick up their fighting styles. I wasn't too interested. I'll be honest with you. I'm a pretty big Street Fighter fan, and I wasn't thrilled with it. I was like, I don't need a Street Fighter Deception. I will say though, the combat with the graffiti, how they're doing kind of the paint splotches, I'm calling it graffiti.
Yeah.
It looks easier to counter, which I liked about that. So the fight mechanics look smoother than 5 for sure. The deception part of it, I'm not thrilled about, but it also seemed like there's quite a few game modes as well. I should note, though, too, we're recording this now. The Guile trailer just dropped, so Guile will be a playable character in Street Fighter 6, but we are going to save a lot of the summer of gaming and state of play for next week as well, since quite a few trailers dropped a little bit before we recorded. So I'd rather just have all the ammunition for next week for y'all as well. So,
and make sure that we're giving good informed takes on things. You know what I mean? Instead of half-baked looks at things. So for sure. Yeah, we can definitely hang on to that a little bit.
But speaking of half-baked though.
So half-baked in terms of, you're talking about mentally, right? Because we're talking about the Joker right now. As a confirmed sequel coming up, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is going to be coming back to the big screen. Joaquin Phoenix playing the sort of infamous interpretation of the Joker now as a mentally ill version of the Joker, but not in like a comic sense of like, oh, he's insane, he's crazy, but like in like a man's depressed, society sucks, like this is, what I mean? And I think for me, the question this kind of raises is, do we see this at all linking up with the Batman universe? Or do we think that this is going to still just be a separate project?
I think this is just going down as a movie for me that probably shouldn't have a sequel. I'm saying that right now.
Interesting.
I'm not excited for that at all. Listen, first Joker was a good movie. Not knocking anything away. The mental health take of it was very cool instead of the zany supervillain kind of thing we're used to with the Joker. It's also a very morbid and depressing movie that it's not a movie I'm going to sit there and watch again. It's like, if Schindler's List is on TV, I'm not watching that again. I've seen it once. I'm good. Great movie, pretty traumatic. Same thing with the Joker. I don't need to see a second Joker take of him being a psychopath dealing with mental illness. It's like, it was a cool take. Like this is kind of a money grab, and I don't think his Joker fits. We don't need him in the DC cinematic universe. We don't even need, honestly, the Joker in the last Batman we saw, in my opinion, either. Like it did well without introducing him into a sequel, which we're probably going to get anyway. But
yeah, well,
I don't know. It's a depressing movie. I don't want to see a second one. That's just me.
No, I think I actually agree with you in that take. Like, my curiosity again is like, will these movies link up in any way, shape, or form? And maybe that's just like me still waiting for a better DC cinematic universe. The Batman you loved, I thought it was a very solid movie overall. I wasn't quite as hot on it as you were, but like, if they went down the role of building in that vein of things, I think you and I would both be satisfied with what could come out of it. However, the Joker and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, I should be specific, I don't think fits that at all and shouldn't be part of it in the first place. And like, I don't like, how do I put it? I don't know that it's a great interpretation to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what if the Joker was just a normal guy, basically, right? Like, and I'm okay with taking realistic looks at superheroes and stuff like that and sort of like bringing them down from the super more to like the real. But in a lot of ways with the Joker, they took him like so far down. I think there's an argument to be made that Joaquin's Joker isn't really the Joker in any shape or form that we know from the comics. Not that the guy's not certifiably insane, but like not at all in the way, like the mental illness way that's portrayed in the Joker movie. So I'm also kind of curious what they think they're going to do with it, because I thought it told a relatively complete story. What like, love it or hate it, like I thought it was kind of resolved.
It was a good dramatic film. Like again, it's depressing, but within reason, and there's a logic towards why it makes you feel uncomfortable watching it as well, which made it a stronger film and lasting impact. Again, maybe not rewatchable, but again, there's no real reason for a sequel, in my opinion, with it. So I'm really not excited about it. No knock on Joaquin Phoenix, the director, either. Again, they made a great first film. It's just do we need a second one? I don't think we do.
Yeah, I mean, so on that disappointing note, and I guess talking about other disappointing things, the next topic on our rundown here is actually Diablo Immortal. We mentioned this before when we talked about loot boxes in Europe and being banned potentially. Immortal, someone crunched the numbers and what this looks like, and on average, to get a fully upgraded character could take $110,000 to get fully upgraded characters in Diablo Immortal. So it's a massive amount of money. And again, like, you will have those like outliers where people get their fully upgraded character in $50,000, I guess, right? And people who spend $200,000 and still don't have a fully upgraded character, because it really is loot boxes in the worst way. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of fallout from that. And I think we can kind of go through that as we're having this conversation here. But first take on Diablo Immortal. Do you think the game's even going to be a thing at this point? Like, is it going to sell?
We talked about last week, but Belgium and Netherlands already banned Diablo Immortal. So now it kind of makes more sense on why some countries already did. But my first kind of take on this, aside from 100K being an obnoxious amount to invest in a game, or you can make a case for almost anything in some cases, but especially a video game, I don't like the review bombing. I really don't. Even though this somewhat warrants with 100K, I don't like review bombing in games or movies in general. I mean, that's a toxic thing that we just got to stop in nerd culture. Like, there's no real reason for that. That's like top tier trolling level, and it's just kind of shameful in my opinion.
So mixed feelings on that. In this case, I will say, because overall, I think review bombing is essentially dishonest, right? Like, the user generated reviews of games, I think, are important for informed consumers. And so I think it's important that people are taking the review process seriously. You've bought the game, you've played the game. This isn't just like you're reacting to something you've seen or whatever. Like, I think it's important that you have an informed opinion and give an informed review of it so that people can make, in the future, informed decisions. That's kind of the merit system I think those are based on. So review bombing on the surface, I do disagree with. At the same time, like, I don't know if I feel bad about it in this case, because like, this is in some ways the crystallization, right? The full embodiment of how bad loot boxing is in general. And right, when they released StarCraft 2, they did an ad in 2017 basically making fun of loot boxing and like all that monetization stuff. And, you know, a mere 5 years later, they're doing this in probably the worst interpretation we've ever seen. So it's one of those, like, I don't know, man. Like, what kind of consequences do you think would be fair for the company then? If not review bombing, what should consumers do to express their displeasure?
I get it's a tough case to make review bombing on. I'm with it there. Like if there's one game that perhaps warrants it, then yes, maybe this is it. I do see a point there and not necessarily disagreeing. I do just think review bombing in general, though, is still toxic. And I think
I agree.
Stuff like this normalizes it, and that's my issue with it.
And that's true, because right, when you have like those fringe cases where it might be justified or there might be an argument for it, then people are going to take that logic and run with it to apply it to other places. But I come back to, though, like, what do you think in this case, what do you think players, consumers should do to show Blizzard essentially that they are not happy with the decision? And like, I know people are going to say right off, don't buy it, don't get the game and stuff, but like, I think people who are smart enough to avoid it are not the people this is going for, right? This is going for the people who are going to have an addiction and blow big money on it.
Well, exactly. And I come back to a point we talked about last week with loot boxes and why, again, Europe's ahead of the curve here in discussion and putting restrictions in place, because simply you see the 100K price tag to basically be the best version, best playable character in the game. Logical responses, that's crazy, not doing that. Or hey, I actually don't mind the game. I like it. I'm not buying anything anyway. It's my version of how I play Apex Legends. I haven't bought a single cosmetic thing. I like the game. I don't care. I'll grind it. I'm not invested in it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. And you just play the game and you get what you get. You get your 3, epic chests, whatever they're calling them, at the end of the month. I forget the exact tier breakdown, all that. Mm-hmm. But you get those 3 unlockable chests. Maybe you get some good gear. Maybe you don't, whatever it is. But then on the pitfall of, hey, you're playing it, you want to be the best. Now you're forced to play. And that's when the addiction part comes into it. So I think from a gaming community, the only thing you can do, and this is my issue with review bombing then, is you have to find a way then to bring this to the forefront of the topic, especially here in the States, of like, this is exactly why this issue is bad. And then if you're review bombing it, though, too, to me, it's kind of just staying then in nerd culture realm. And it's not really Diablo Immortal. If there's ever loot box restrictions in the States, Diablo Immortal is not going to be the case for it because of everything that's going on with it right now. And review bombing is part of that, in my opinion.
That's an interesting take, because I think you and I both agree from our discussion, especially last week, that loot boxes and basically the way games are being monetized these days are predatory practices. They should be looked at with a critical eye and arguably should be legislated in some fashion to sort of curtail that. What that might look like exactly and stuff. We didn't get into all of that. I think that's a much deeper discussion than what we want to get into on Spectator Mode specifically. But at the same time, review bombing, as you said, like, the people who are going to see the review bombs and stuff like that are going to be other gamers or people looking to buy and purchase this, not necessarily legislators, not necessarily, people that we would want to draw attention to this. This isn't getting to other outlets. This is staying within regular media outlets that we consume for gaming. So it's not really drawing attention to the issue. And again, like, the business model is built on a predatory practice that, like, you can't talk with your money because the game is free to play to begin with, right? So the whole business model is built on the concept that it will snag a couple whales and take advantage of them. And those are the exact people that aren't going to really be able to just say, like, I'm not going to spend that money. They're the people that are going to, go into it and just drop insane amounts of money, and maybe, I hope the people who do that are the people who can afford to do that. Realistically, we know that's not true. But even if they can afford it, then it's still just like supporting this style of game that, like, okay, so then what's everyone else supposed to do? If I don't have $100,000 to drop into a game, I just can't enjoy the franchise anymore. The game's just not for me, I guess. Like, what a ludicrous argument that would be to make, I think. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's all around a disappointing situation. If anyone listening has more ideas of kind of like, I think, what the response should be to this, besides just review bombing and besides speaking with your money, because like I said, I don't think that's effective in this case, I'd love to see some comments and some discussion around that personally.
And I think we should note too, again, this is Activision Blizzard as well. So this is kind of another game too that I think puts them under the microscope of, taking some pretty big swings and misses. And even though it is the gaming world, it is still the court of public opinion on your immediate consumers too. So not a great look for them. And I know we've been pretty critical of them on the show quite a bit as well for
Yeah.
good reason.
Yeah, I think justifiably so, yeah. But I don't know, you want to close this out on something a little bit different, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. Sticking with the trailer theme and also DC, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. No, The Rock's latest installment, DC's potential next big blockbuster. We saw a first look at Black Adam actual trailer, not just a teaser, actual footage of the movie. We got to see Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate as well, which was super, super cool. What's your takes?
Pierce Brosnan, I'm super excited for. The Rock is being The Rock. And like someone said this best when Dave Bautista was cast in Guardians, and they're like, even though they have similar backgrounds, right? Like The Rock kind of just plays himself in everything he plays, the same character, the same persona, the same sort of like energy. Where I think for Dave Bautista, there's much more of an argument that he's an actor, like truly an actor, that he gets into his roles, that he brings something to it, some nuance to it. He's not just rehashing the same personality a million times.
I don't know. His role in Spectre, I mean, he killed it.
Well, and like
so many lines.
Well, that slightly aside, though, I'm like, I think Black Adam is a major potential superhero. Shazam is one of the few DC movies that I think was overall very well received. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's one of those things that they have good momentum on, they can build from. Attaching a big name like The Rock on the one hand, I think is great for drawing in maybe like more casual fans, but I think people who might be more true to the franchise maybe will take my side of things and say like The Rock might not have been the best actor for Black Adam because The Rock is The Rock, right? Like, I don't know how much he's really going to bring to that role.
I can see criticism with this trailer because it was very action heavy and focused. And yes, The Rock is an action hero. I mean, action heroes typically can be a bit one dimensional in some capacity. Sure, I would make the case that we've seen that with Baptista a lot, especially take the Guardians' humor away from it. There's really not a whole lot of crazy acting going on there.
All right, so he's going to be a little too generous.
Body and all that. I mean,
Dave. All right, fine.
Just saying. I mean, Man with Iron Fists, same kind of premise. That Baptista is being a big old thug. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't think The Rock's going to do a bad job with Black Adam because I think this is where people don't understand necessarily the lore of Black Adam. He's an unstoppable force. Okay. The guy chooses to be a god. And basically, if he stops being god form, he's just going to be a skeleton. Like he's committed to being a god and inheriting the powers since ancient Egypt. And he's remained that way. You know what I mean? The guy is just megalomaniac. It's awesome. He's ruthless, just if anything's in his way, he's going through it. So I think The Rock will bring that energy and that kind of violence. And you do need a larger, bulkier guy to see that and the physicality of it. My issue, though, and this is where it might get a bit more The Rock and a bit more the cheekiness. And The Rock does have a good sense of sarcasm and a lot of charisma, too, to kind of blend the anti-hero charm in there. Is it does seem like Dr. Fate's trying to make him into a hero from what we've seen in the trailer. I just want to see Black Adam fuck shit up and be the villain. That's what I want to see a Black Adam film for. I don't want to see him trying to learn to try to be a hero kind of shit. I ain't about that life.
That's interesting. I mean, I think for me, I really am still hoping for all around, right? As I'm looking for a good DCU overall, I think they're struggling right now with the Justice stuff that they tried to set up. I think they rushed into that maybe a little bit too much. Maybe they should have taken their time to sort of look at individual heroes and characters, played with those a little bit to find who people enjoyed, what characters and stuff like that, to then put their Justice League together using that. I think, the issues that we see going on with Ezra Miller also come back to the Justice League and stuff like that. But like, we have a solid Batman movie out right now. That was a good starting point for a Batman cinematic universe. Could that be brought into a larger cinematic universe? I don't know. Shazam was a really well-received movie overall, very good. And like, I'm hoping for some wins for DC is what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping this is going to give them what they need to keep the ball rolling on this stuff, that like they can put together a good competing cinematic universe because like gods above, if we could get some crossover Marvel DC event, would be, you know, amazing in my lifetime, because I'm not one of those people who thinks that you can only like one or the other. You're absolutely within your rights to like both. It's not like a pick and choose situation. So I would love for both of them to be doing well in the various forms of media. And, you know, right now I feel like DC is struggling a little bit with their cinematic universe, and I'm hoping these pieces put together a better foundation that they can build from, is what it comes down to.
No, I'm with you there. I'm in 100% agreement that, you know, I'd like to see DC get a win for sure. I'm excited. That again, my only critique is that I want to see an anti-hero film of him learning to be a hero. I wanted to see Black Adam be a monster, and you got Hawkman there, so let's see two godlike characters just toe to toe. You know what I mean? I'm all for it. Like Hawkman's a badass, and Hawkman also dies and gets resurrected. So I'm 100% for Black Adam, Dwayne the Rock Johnson ripping off his goddamn wings and beating him with it, 100%. And I like Hawkman. It's not disrespect to Hawkman at all. He's a G.
I don't. Well. I'll be honest. Let him get it. Fucking Hawkman, I always thought was overrated.
Beings in DC universe, dude's like guy comes out of hell just fighting everything. Like he's an animal. But like again, I'm okay with him being a bit of a punching bag in this movie.
No, and I agree, because I think one of the things we've talked about before is like the just overall plethora of origin trailers or movies rather, just like explaining like who people are, where they come from, defining their character and their powers, and like, you know, Black Adam is a character with a lot of history that he's already had, so there's definitely gonna have to be some sort of, you know, explanation for that stuff in the back. But like he's 5,000 years plus or whatever in his ways, right? I agree with you. Let's not be seeing him sort of like, oh, 5,000 years and finally now I'm having this like come to God moment, this revelation or whatever. It's like, no, man, set in his ways. He knows who he is. He knows what he does. Like, let him be himself.
Ultimate wisdom too, which is like, that's what I think people forget about with Shazam and Black Adam. Like they do inherit wisdom as well. Like he's not a dummy. Yes, he's a brute force and like he chooses to just be a manimal, but like he's not an idiot. You know what I mean? So it's again like he knows what's going on, frozen or not, as we see him. Like he's gonna be well aware of like, okay, cool. It's years have passed by. Like, am I the strongest in the universe? Well, you're about to find out. Like that's what he's about.
Yeah. So I think that's probably where we're gonna bring it to a close for this episode of Spectator Mode all around. Some less than happy news, I think, in many respects. But I will say, I think both you and I are looking forward to Black Adam and what that might bring to the DCU continuity and storylines there. So, you know, fingers crossed. I will be seeing that probably in theaters. I'll be honest. I don't go to the movies for everything. You gonna go out for this one or no?
Probably, honestly. I've been going out to most of the new releases now. That's kind of back in full swing. So I don't know. I like going to movies. It's relaxing.
I love going to the movies too, but when it comes to DC movies, I'll be honest, I've been playing a pick and choose game with it because it's been hit or miss. So I think they've earned that reputation. I'm not just going to automatically come out to watch that in theaters. You know what I mean? I can wait for it to get released on some other platform or whatever and grab it then and watch that.
No, that's fair.
More convenient.
I'm excited for it. I'm also not as critical as The Rock playing The Rock all the time. So.
Well, you know, and to a certain extent, maybe this is one of those roles that like it makes sense to sort of, you know, unbeatable Hulk, like Superman kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like that is Black Adam in a big way. That is the character. So it's not so much like The Rock maybe playing The Rock as this is what Black Adam is about. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being my usual grim and dark self. But to all of our viewers stopping by, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week in another episode of Spectator Mode.